Tonight, a win for the Trump administration's asylum plan. The new decision from the Supreme Court that clears the way for a controversial immigration rule. And 2020 presidential hopefuls are set to take the stage. A look at tonight's Democratic primary debate. Plus, the push to impeach Trump. House Democrats approve new guidelines for impeachment hearings. What that could mean for the president. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
A new asylum rule from the U.S. Supreme Court that Mexico is not happy about. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
Good evening. I'm Eric Phillips in for John Jessup tonight. Mexico is pushing back on what many are calling a big victory for President Trump. The High Court gave a green light to the policy banning U.S. asylum for people who travel through another country to get here, like Mexico.
And tonight there's reaction from the Mexican Foreign Secretary. Quote, the court's decision is astonishing in the impact it is going to have.
CBN News White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us with more. Ben, good evening.
Well, good evening, Eric and Jenna. President Trump calls this win one more step towards fixing the country's broken asylum system. Democrats, however, argue lives will be lost.
Our country is full. We want Mexico to stop.
That means our southern neighbor could now be taking in more people, thanks to the Supreme Court upholding President Trump's asylum crackdown. The policy win means migrants who enter through the southern border must first seek asylum in one of the countries they ventured through.
Otherwise, people are coming into the border and the claims aren't processed at all. It's just catch and release into the interior.
The court backlog of some 800,000 asylum claims prompted the White House to make this move. Then U.S. District Judge John Tiger blocked the policy, which was upheld by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Wednesday, the High Court stepped in to allow it. Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sonia Sotomayor dissented. Sotomayor writing, once again, the executive branch has issued a rule that seeks to upend long-standing practices regarding refugees who seek shelter from persecution. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi also criticized the ruling and doubled down on the president's plan to divert money for the border wall.
The decision is bad for security of our border, for the security of our nation, the well-being of our children. As you recall, the president said that Mexico would pay for the wall. Well, that's not happening. Instead, look who's paying. A prospective middle school of $62 million in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Take that money, spend it on the wall.
Now, the immigration battle is not over as 19 states are involved in border-related lawsuits, and the White House right here behind me waits for other rulings in its favor. Jenna, Eric?
Yeah, and Ben, the Trump administration is also considering a drastic cut in refugees allowed into the U.S. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Jenna, one option being thrown around would cut refugee admissions by half. It is a move the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom is against. Tweeting Yusuf is alarmed by the reports the Trump administration is preparing to significantly reduce or even zero out the number of refugees to be resettled to the U.S. Back here in D.C., we now wait to hear what numbers the White House proposes, then different agencies can weigh in if it is in fact the best move. Jenna, Eric?
All right, Ben, thank you very much. And Commissioner Nadine Mienza with the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom is joining us now for more on this. And we do understand that that the commission describes this as alarming. Why so?
We do, because we really feel like this administration in particular has been the best on religious freedom ever. You know, they've hosted the ministerial, done all sorts of outreach to other countries. And for us to, and as a commission in the State Department, to go into other countries and to tell their governments that their religious minorities have value, that they matter, that they should be treated with dignity, and then for us to announce we're taking none of them, really sets an alarming message to the world and really interferes with our ability to advocate for religious minorities.
What is the administration's, just justification for this ruling?
Well, right now they're still trying to decide what the cap's going to be. So I think there are people inside the administration that have all sorts of different opinions on that. So that's why we felt like it was time for us to weigh in on this, because we're an independent, bipartisan agency, and our job is to make recommendations to our own government. So this was an opportunity for us to make the recommendation, in particular, to not zero out the refugees. We prefer that they don't even cut it. 30,000 is already pretty low.
In regard to religious persecution, our David Brody, he spoke with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo recently and asked him about reducing refugees. We have a soundbite that we want to play, and then we'll get your reaction.
Okay.
Religious persecution obviously on the rise, but I know the Trump administration has kind of lowered the threshold, if you will, for a number of refugees to get in. That means more folks that are trying to flee religious persecution aren't able to come into the United States. At least that's what some of the critics would say. What's the response to something like that?
You know, we're still the most generous, welcoming nation anywhere in the world. Our objective has been to try and do what those people really want in most cases, which is just to stay in their own country. So our approach for Christians in the Middle East and for other people who are being religiously persecuted around the world, our mission set has been to try and create the conditions inside their own country so that they can have that religious freedom. There'll be no need to leave their country, their friends, their people, their church, their synagogue, their mosque, all the things that they know and love and that their grandparents know and love. And that's our aim.
You know, Mike Pompeo says it's important to create better conditions in these countries. Nadine, your thoughts?
And we don't disagree, of course. We don't want to empty the Middle East out of religious minorities, of Christians, Yazidis. But there are some instances where they can't go back. We're talking about Iraqi Christians. I met a family in Jordan just recently that had come from Mosul. She was a hairdresser. He was a school teacher. She was stabbed by ISIS. They were targeted. They left. They tried to come back, and they got a phone call saying if they did, they would be killed. You know, it's not safe for them to return. I think about pastors that have been running churches in China, Iran, places like that, they can't go home. So we're particularly worried about those that truly can't go back.
And we know that today, Citizen and Immigration Services Director Ken Cuccinelli suggested that with this asylum ruling, we could actually see more refugees admitted. Do you see that happening?
Well, we really don't think that you have to eliminate bringing refugees from across the world in order to deal with the southern border. I mean, USCIRF doesn't take a position on immigration in general or particular. Well, we're just saying it doesn't have to be one or the other.
9,500 refugees resettled is what USCIRF is calling for. That's in line with previous rates. Nadine, why that number?
Well, we just called out what had been the average since 1980, that we wanted to be higher than the 30,000. So I think we were just setting that mark. That is what has been the average for the United States. To go from 95,000 down to zero would be too drastic.
Absolutely. A subject that many eyes and ears will be tuned into for some time to come. Yes. Nadine Mayenza, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Well, tonight it's down to the top 10 on the same stage. With less than 5 months to go before the Iowa caucuses, the third of a dozen Democratic presidential debates kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern in Houston. Gabe LaMonica has a preview of what to expect.
That's not hard breaking through.
The contender at the top of the ticket, ready to be squeezed between two other frontrunners.
I think that we start with a plan and then we get out there and fight for it. That's what being president is all about.
On one side of Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren. On the other side, Bernie Sanders.
We say to the corporate elites that gravy train is ending.
The latest polling shows President Trump losing head-to-head against the top 5 Democrats.
The radical Democrats want to dismantle, demolish, and destroy everything that you've gained. And they will do it, and it won't take that long.
The president, fresh off a GOP win in North Carolina, is putting the Democrats in one basket, flying a campaign message, socialism will kill Houston's economy, over the debate site.
First of all, I'm the only bald person.
Candidates are hoping tonight will help their campaigns take off. Sharing that hope, Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, also sharing a flight to Houston. Also hoping to drum up approval, Beto O'Rourke and Andrew Yang, looking for a slam dunk to get off the bottom rung.
We're all unified in beating Donald Trump in 2020.
Getting ready to say goodbye to Donald Trump, and then I'm going to tell him, adios.
Sure to provide a kumbaya moment when Democratic infighting isn't on display. Gabe LaMonica, CBN News, Washington.
And here now for more, Abigail Robertson, Chief White House Correspondent for One American News, and CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. Both of you, good to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Emerald, to you first. This is the first time Warren and Biden will go toe-to-toe. Right. What do you expect?
Well, this is a really anticipated confrontation. Of course, they're seen as the front runners. They're Senator Bernie Sanders, but Elizabeth Warren has been surging in a big way over recent weeks. And so in talking about what to expect, I talked to the RNC a little bit earlier today. Of course, they have their own perspective on it. And the expectation from the RNC side is that with Biden and Warren being on stage together, you're going to see them push each other further to the left. Clearly, Warren is by far more progressive, or seen as more progressive than Biden, but we've seen him inching that way, right? Debate over debate. And so there's this sentiment that she'll probably really push him farther to the left. And now for Biden, that's probably not a good thing because he's been seen as the centrist person. He's the guy that a lot of voters, Democratic voters, longtime Democratic voters, really wanted to be their guy in 2020, right? But with recent gaffes, both on the debate stage and the campaign trail, he's losing some of his edge and losing his place as the front runner, even though the polls have him there. And so you're going to see Elizabeth Warren take her chance. She's going to go at him in a big way, especially as she's surging now. She wants to surge further.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And let me just add a few other things, or just one main thing, which is Joe Biden's in deep trouble tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got Elizabeth, this is the first time, remember, that he's on stage with Elizabeth Warren. The juxtaposition between Elizabeth Warren, who's not only rising in the polls, but boy, sharp as a tack, and the school professor, she's got the whole thing going on, and then Joe Biden, a little slow, disjointed, disheveled to a degree. I think what we're going to see stylistically tonight is something to watch. That'll be interesting.
It will be. Well, not only that, but when you talk about Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren being on the same stage tonight, typically they're going after the same base. What is that going to look like tonight?
Well, Senator Sanders knows that he's also in trouble with the progressive base because Warren is performing so well. In some polls, she's outperforming him. And he's going to try to reclaim that territory. And again, you'll see them talking about more progressive ideals, particularly the single-payer health care. They're both for that. They'll probably try to outdo one another on that because that's a major issue for their particular bases.
Yeah, and I think one reason that Bernie has slipped and Elizabeth Warren has progressed is the way they package it. You know, Bernie, it's a train in Russia to Leningrad. You know, it's socialism all the way. With Elizabeth Warren, it's economic populism. It's draped in an American flag. It feels very Main Street USA. Very, very different. Bernie 2016, that's what it feels like. He misses opportunity. Thanks, DNC. But he misses opportunity. 2020 seems Elizabeth Warren is here.
What do you think Kamala Harris's posture will be tonight, David?
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch her. I think she needs to go after Elizabeth Warren. There's one lane for college-educated women, liberal college-educated women, and she needs to get some of those back from Elizabeth Warren. I see her going more after Warren than Biden tonight.
I think so, too. And particularly, Harris has struggled in the polls, but I expect her to come out very strongly on immigration policy. We've seen the president, the administration have a lot of wins recently, even in the court system in regards to immigration policy. And she has to find somewhere. She doesn't really perform well amongst certain demographics and certain bases. And so she has to find an issue that she can own. And it looks like, based on what we're hearing, that's where she's going to try to push for, is to own that immigration debate on the stage tonight.
Yeah, and Medicare for all, right? Bernie is Medicare for all. Elizabeth Warren's Medicare for all. And then Kamala Harris is, kind of Medicare for all. Maybe, but maybe not. I mean, it's just been so murky, and I think it's tripped her up a little bit.
Less than 30 seconds left. Wondering, we've seen 2 nights of debates going up until this point. Tonight will be the only night of debate. Will people pay more attention because it's just one night?
Well, yeah. Well, the only problem is you're also facing off against Thursday night football, which is a point that's been made, right? I saw someone say, well, I think it's Andrew Yang who's on the stage saying, well, football viewers vote too. But people are going to pay attention because you do have Biden and Warren and Kamala Harris on the same stage and Senator Sanders.
It is 3 hours long, so buckle up and buckle in.
There you go.
Oh, that's going to be long.
3 hours of excitement. Emerald, David, thank you very much. We appreciate it. With Congress back, the question of impeachment remains. When we come back, the latest on how the House plans to move forward.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Here, we're committed to a heritage of rigorous scholarship dating back over 1,000 years.
And to a faith tradition dating back 1,000 more.
This is how we create a culture of inquiry where no topic is off limits.
And a culture of hope.
Anything's possible!
It's Christian leadership.
And it's changing the world for the better.
It's higher learning.
It's greater knowing.
It's what makes us whole.
It's what makes us Regent.
Welcome back. On Capitol Hill, the number of congressional Democrats calling for impeachment, well, it's growing.
Yeah, louder and louder, with more than 130 House members now pushing for it. Today, a House committee outlined what that may mean moving forward. Abigail Robertson has the story from the Hill.
Well, the House Judiciary Committee started today with a fiery hearing that ended in a party-line vote to approve a resolution that expands the committee's investigative powers and could eventually lead to an impeachment inquiry, a move Republicans say is misleading.
At least acknowledge that there is a reason why these are not formal impeachment inquiries.
Let's change the rules in the middle of the game because we got to find something.
You want to give the illusion of impeachment without the reality of it. You're duping that portion of your base that is clamoring for impeachment into thinking you are when you aren't.
So what today's resolution is actually doing is to allow Chairman Jerry Nadler to decide if committee hearings are part of any impeachment probe and allow witness questioning at those hearings. It also gives the committee access to documents in executive sessions and gives the president due process. I spoke with Republican Congressman Andy Biggs, who argues Democrats are bending the rules with this resolution to try and impeach the president.
This is wrong on so many levels. Let me give you a couple of them. Number one, this is something that they've wanted to do, but again, they're not doing it in the normal process. Normally you take this to the floor, you get your resolution passed, but they didn't. They had only 1/3 of their body even support it. The impeachment tool was meant to really solve a real problem if you need to get someone out of office. Okay, that's fair, but in this instance, 2/3 of Americans say, we don't want impeachment, we want to move on, and let's get it going. So it's wrong on multiple levels.
This week, Congressman Biggs was also named as the new chairman of the conservative House Freedom Caucus.
I think what we want to go to now is we want to make sure that we can work within our party to try to continue to make them more conservative, help them remember the promises we've made. We've got great people in and out of HFC, but the HFC is strong for keeping its promises to the American people. That's one thing. The second thing is that this 2020 election is critical. The Freedom Caucus is in there fighting for people who aren't otherwise heard. And so we want to energize that base, make sure they get out and help restore us to the majority.
Congressman Biggs will step into that role in October. Back to you, Jenna and Eric.
Thanks, Abby. Up next, federal laws going unenforced. Why some say more judges are using their benches for activism.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Today, it's becoming more and more common for federal judges to hand down nationwide injunctions that stop presidents or Congress in their tracks.
That basically decides important issues for the entire country. And Paul Strand is reporting that some see this as a major threat to democracy itself.
Of the three branches of government, the judiciary is the only unelected one, and at times, the most powerful. The Obama administration faced 20 nationwide injunctions over 8 years. President Trump has already been hit with nearly 40. These judges often halt Congress as well, blocking enforcement of federal laws and policies. Attorney General William Barr wants to stop these injunctions. Writing in the Wall Street Journal, shrewd lawyers have learned to shop for a sympathetic judge willing to issue such an injunction. These days, virtually every significant congressional or presidential initiative is enjoined, often within hours, threatening our democratic system and undermining the rule of law. GOP Congressman Steve Scalise told CBN News it provides a judge near total power.
Being a judge does not mean you're a dictator or a czar. Again, you're supposed to be there interpreting the laws that are written and upholding the Constitution. And too often we see a judge that has their own agenda and they try to carry out whatever they want to do as opposed to following what the law says.
And that becomes a real danger if not properly checked, because who will check the checkers?
Jeremy Dice fights for religious freedom through the First Liberty Institute.
If the judges themselves are the ones that are going to decide what the Constitution says, and we limit that to just one individual, that deprives 330 million Americans of the process that we're familiar with under our Constitution.
Used to be Congress would pass a law, the president would sign it, and then it would take effect. Now if a judge steps in with a nationwide injunction to stop it, the president or lawmakers must slog their way through the entire judiciary.
The average case, I think, to the Supreme Court takes roughly 6 years to percolate up through the system.
As Attorney General Barr states, nationwide injunctions threaten to turn every case into an emergency for the executive and judicial branches. The way the judiciary is supposed to work is local judges decide cases for the people in front of them. Disputed local rulings go before district or circuit courts like the one behind me. And where circuits disagree with each other, the U.S. Supreme Court weighs in for the whole nation.
Which would give a lot more eyes on the situation rather than just one individual sitting in his chambers making the decision.
As Barr puts it, a Supreme Court justice must convince at least 4 colleagues to bind the federal government nationwide, whereas a district court judge issuing a nationwide injunction needn't convince anyone.
It always angers me when I see these activist judges, judges who are not elected, who decide instead of interpreting the law, they want to make their own law. And, you shouldn't go to the judiciary because you want to be a lawmaker. You should run for Congress.
And two men who did just that are taking action. Republican Senator Tom Cotton and Congressman Mark Meadows have introduced the nationwide Injunction Abuse Prevention Act. If passed, it would prevent lawful policy changes from being blocked by individual district court judges. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Confirming conservative judges is a big push for Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and the Trump administration, one that is being accomplished. The Senate has now confirmed 150 of the president's judicial nominees, 105 of those on the lower courts, and this administration has also put 43 circuit court judges on the bench, as well as 2 Supreme Court justices.
Still ahead, how people in the Bahamas are turning to God and remembering those lost during Hurricane Durian.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
Finally tonight, search and rescue crews are still making their way through the destruction that Hurricane Durian caused in the Bahamas.
But even in the face of tragedy, the Prime Minister is calling on people there to turn to God.
As horrible and vicious as Hurricane Durian was, the bravery and resilience of the Bahamian people is even more powerful. I have asked the Christian Council to plan a national prayer service. We will also have a national day of mourning. We will need as many spiritual resources as we will need physical resources to rebuild lives and to recover.
To help rebuild and bring hope, CBN's Operation Blessing is on the ground working on recovery efforts. For more information on how you can help, visit ob.org. And if you can't do anything else, it's always a good time to push, pray until something happens.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that does it for Faith Nation.
We'll see you back here tomorrow night.